Ladies and gentlemen, it's currently October of 2024, and the United States Chess Championship is going on, which is a very big deal because Hans Niemann is playing. If you haven't been following the saga of Hans Niemann, not just with Magnus Carlsen, Hikaru Nakamura, and Chess.com, there is a whole other separate Hans Niemann saga, and it pertains to the St. Louis Chess Club, which is where that very famous game happened between him and Magnus in September of 2022. Hans has not been able to play tournaments in St. Louis, and that has been a whole ongoing drama, but they can't not invite him to the U.S. Championship because he's one of the best players in America. And he just played an unbelievable game. This was a really, really, really nice game. It featured Hans's signature fighting spirit, the never back down attitude, and if he keeps playing games like this, dude, he could be the world champion in 3 to 4 years. He just needs to keep levels like this consistent. It's really, really incredible stuff. Also, very quick reminder, I've been updating people who watch this channel every day on what's happening. So 2 things. Number 1, fan event in Stockholm. November 3rd, I'm going to be there playing against Pia Kramling that whole week. On the 3rd of November in Stockholm, I am doing a fan event. Tickets are live. Tickets are live. Now, let me break this down for you. They are in 3 tiers. The VIP tier sold out already. I can't believe it. They literally sold out in like 24 hours. The difference between the A and the B tier. The B tier is pretty cheap, I would argue. I think it's like 20 USD, which is like a coffee in New York City. And it's basically just general admission. We're going to have 2 big rooms there in this venue. One of them will have kind of like a theater. We're going to do a little show there for the B and the VIP. And general admission is going to be in the other room. It's a big, beautiful hall. That is where Anna and I are going to play 60 games of chess against people. We will randomly draw one of the B tickets to join us. And, you know, you'll be able to grab a drink if you're... a child will have juice, soda, water, whatever you'd like. It's going to be a really fun venue with 2 separate rooms, and we'll be there. And that's kind of the difference in all the tiers. And one last thing is my board, which October 15th, the chess board, this thing right here. The URL is now live. I will put that in the description as well. However, you will notice that the board is out of stock. That is because Walmart is waiting to populate the 2,600 stores this is going in. You could try to check your local Walmart, but it's a risk you'll have to take. I think within a week, it will show up in stock. A friendly reminder, I have no control over shipping. I have no control over pricing. I have 0 control. Walmart is a massive, massive, massive business. They wanted to have a chessboard with my name on it there. I worked together to make it as seamless as possible. It comes with, a course inside, in fact. But, sometimes people contact me like, hey, my book came, I ordered your book and it came to my house damaged. I can't do anything about that. I don't ship the books individually. So any and all complaints should be directed to where it is sold. I'm just, and I've actually tried to get the price down. So if anybody's going to be, unhappy with pricing, I always try to get the most competitive pricing, the smartest pricing for all of the chess fans. You are the chess fan. But I mean, it's a very nice board. It's a very nice quality. So keep an eye on that link. Okay, yapping finished, as the children say. And do check out the tickets. They're going fast, as you see. They're almost all sold out already. So now, Hans Niemann versus Lenier Dominguez Perez. Here we go. Hans opens the game with e4. Lenier likes to play the Sicilian defense at times, but he's going to go e4, e5. This is the meta at the highest level of the game. Hans plays knight f3, black plays knight c6, and we have an Italian. This is the exact same thing that Hans played against Fabiano. In fact, at this point, if you get Hans with white, he's going to play the Italian. It is the opening that he plays all the time, and the intricacies lie in where the A pawn will move, the C and D pawns move, whether this knight's going to go there, some sidelines, the knight goes to C3, etc. Bishop C5 is the move chosen by Lenier. Fabiano also played this move. Hans castled. Now, the move that Fabiano did not play was knight F6. Maybe you will remember this, maybe not. That game was D6, followed by Bishop B6. I mean, it was like C3 and like this. And then Fabiano played H6, And then he played queen f6. So Fabiano played like this against Hans, and it was very risky, very provocative, very creative. Lanier doesn't do that. Lanier, listen, Lanier's the kind of guy, like, if he likes a dish at a local restaurant, he's going to go there 20 times. And God bless him, because that's what I do. I'm not going to take any route that I don't know. This is the ultra main line. It has been played a million billion times. D3, C3, we see this a lot. And now black kind of chooses. In this game, he opts to castle. He is not afraid of b4. This is one of the approaches that white can take. Black will play b5 and like this. But this is nothing scary. Rook e1 instead by Hans. So it's going here. All of this has been played before. And now Lanier plays a5. So a5 stops b4. This is an aggressive Italian. And almost like you insulted his mozzarella. Hans plays h3. This stops anything from going to g4. Lanier plays h6. This position has been reached some 500 times maybe in the database at the high level. Hans plays knight bd2. Black plays bishop e6, offering a trade. And now white utilizes this, this open space here and plays bishop b5. And so here's something interesting happens, okay? Now, you look at the database. This has been played. Fabiano Dingliren, Pragnananda Dingliren, Wesley So, Ariantari. Like, it's been played by a lot of really, really good players. Actually, the black specialist with this line is Ding. And Ding plays queen b8 in this position almost exclusively. Bishop b8, did I say bishop b8? Queen b8, with the idea to play queen a7 and also fight on this file. Now, the move that Lanier chooses here is not in any of the top lines of the computer. He plays bishop to b6. Now, that move looks silly because white plays knight c4. And what are you going to do about the bishop? And now the bishop goes forward. Wow. So we have this position. He goes bishop b6, knight c4, and goes back to c5. Now that's interesting, because if you notice, if white goes knight d2 in this position, black is not going to try to play for a win. Black is going to try to make a draw. And Lanier's okay with that, not because he's playing Hans, but because, playing with black in the US Championship is hard. All these players are really good. It's kind of nice to get easy draws with black and put pressure on your opponents with white. So he kind of bounces the ball to Hans here and is like, dude, it's up to you. And what's interesting is that Hans spends 7 minutes on this move, which means, understanding the details of bishop b6 is not happening so easily, because you also can go knight f1. And also in this position, you can go knight e3 and try to go that way, try to secure this f5 square. Obviously, Lanier has everything prepared. Now, Hans here plays bishop a4, and Lanier takes. So look at black's time management. He's starting the game with a certain amount of time. He's still at that time. DC, knight h5. Black simply wants queen f6 and knight f4. So if white plays bishop e3, you take, rook e3, the knight comes to f4. Black has a fantastic position. Maybe you stop c5. Maybe you play queen e7. So c5 is met with an easy capture, no queen trade. Hans now plays a move that I could not believe. When I saw this game happening, I was like, what is he doing? But this really might just work. And it shows you the level of creativity that Hans possesses. In this position, he plays g4. g4 is crazy. It was a crazy move. You weaken your king. You have no attack. What? You can't even attack with the bishop because the center is blocked. I mean, how are you getting these pieces over there? If anybody has an attack on anybody, it's black on white. Lanier plays knight f6. So he spends some time as well. Now, g4 is nuts. Like, Hans spends 20 minutes playing this move, and it is... And the riskiness is what's really fascinating. So the whole point is that if black continues forward, you take, and you can even play something like knight d4, but in a nutshell, you've created a wall that black can't really cross. Black might play rook b8, you play b3, and black might play queen f6, and you play like queen d2, and black doesn't have an attack anymore somehow. somehow white has repelled black totally on the light squares. And black only has a dark squared bishop, which can't do anything. So in many ways, g4 makes sense because black's momentum was carrying him forward, and now he has to step out of the position. And now this man, Hans Niemann, plays g5. He wasn't just satisfied with this position. This lunatic plays g5. What? When I saw g5, I was like, is he trying to lose? He just spent 30 minutes on 2 pawn moves. But then as I started looking at this more, I was like, wait a minute. This is genius. Because here's the thing. Black may need to return here. And then if, let's say, you get rid of this knight so it can't transfer, and then you take on h6, actually, then black is doing very well. But I actually think if this happened, Hans would take on e5, targeting this knight, and after d e5, queen h5, white's attack is very much still alive, by the way. So that's kind of nice. So knight f6, g5 played. H takes g5 from Lanier, bishop g5. And so this is the question, right? Like Hans did this like odd-looking attack. But how does black get this 0.4, right? You see the engine, it's like minus 0.4. Why? Why is it minus 0.4? If you play queen e7, you play queen e7. Because if king h2 is played now, black gets knight d8, knight e6. This is the only move that gives black this advantage. You can also play queen d7, which is a bad move because after king h2, knight d8, you lose the queen. So you need knight d8. Knight d8 is the critical idea here. In the game, Lanier plays queen c8. In a minute time, by the way. Hans plays king h2. By the way, some of you looking at this may go, isn't this hanging? Yeah, but it's too dangerous to take. Rook e2, and then bishop f6, rook g2, and it's a devastating attack on the king. Rook g2, king h7, knight takes e5, and queen h5 is simply mate. So this is why Hans is actually brilliant, because this attack against a guy like Lanier, who generally likes to keep the peace. I mean, he's a very solid positional maestro. But, like, to cause a fight with the guy, you know, he may not meet confrontation the perfect way. I'm not trying to psychoanalyze the guy. I'm just trying to give you guys the layman's breakdown, you know, of this matchup. The knight goes back to f6 here, g5, and queen. But after king h2, suddenly Hans is equal again, according to the oh-so-blessed machine. And Lanier tries to get rid of this bishop, which Hans now says, no. This was my whole idea. And suddenly white has an advantage. Now, neither of the players know that, but you can sort of tell, like, wait a minute, actually it's white who has an attack. This is a masterclass in same-side attacking chess. When you have the kings castled on the same side, and one person takes a calculated risk to push pawns on their side of the board. Lanier brings the queen to e6, that is probably the best move, and Hans now plays rook g2, simultaneously defending the pawn on f2, and also opening the possibility to double on the g-file. Now, Lanier should probably take the bishop at some point, but there's obviously nothing wrong with knight e7, rendering this bishop completely out of the game. The bishop does not participate anymore. Now Hans dips out of the position, bishop d2. By the way, he's down 37 minutes on the clock. Like, this is really a bit of a wounded fighter. I mean, he's taking massive risk. Hans right now is juggling 7 grapefruits, and they're all on fire. And I don't know why he's doing this in the middle of the St. Louis Chess Club, considering it's a chess competition. I have no idea who let him bring in that many grapefruits, let alone set them on fire and start juggling them in the playing hall. But the St. Louis Chess Club is weird, and, you know, that's what it does. By the way, side note, there's been pawns hanging the entire game in white's position, and the point is you just simply can't take them. You can't take them because, in many ways, like, this is not the best move, but you would be allowing white to bring the bishop, another attacking piece, to the game, and even though you won 2 pawns, it's +1, right? Very instructive. So bishop d2. Lanier now is playing defense with his pieces, and Hans plays queen e2. What's fascinating about this game is how Hans is able to combine violent attacking chess, g4, g5, like, with stability, preparatory moves, waiting moves, dipping out of the position, and like moves like bishop d2, queen e2, that shows class. Because when you rush forward, you want to commit. You want to just go fully in, but you can't. And the thing about black's position is if black lashes out, he loses valuable defenders. he simply loses. Like, rook f6 looks like it safeguards, but there's knight h4, knight takes, rook takes g7, king h8, queen h5, and black is lost. Black simply loses. So he's able to play moves like this. Now Lanier is defending, but for some reason the evaluation is growing. And queen f6 sets up knight f4, which now Hans is able to stop with rook g4. Why was he not able to play that move earlier? Because the pawn on f2 would have been unprotected. So he needed to play queen e2 to defend the pawn on f2, because he knew that black would play queen f6, because he knew that black would try to play knight f4, and he knew that with the queen on e2, he simultaneously prepares a rook move and also enables the rook to move so the f2 pawn is no longer under attack. I mean, it's the level of intricacy of this game. Rook g4, right? Suddenly Lanier is like, this is ridiculous. I don't have another move. I don't have a move. So he plays c6. Hans plays rook g1. Every move that Hans makes comes with a thunderous thud. Every move he makes is, you sit there going, oh my god, this is really bad. Like, out of nowhere, white's got this huge attack. Black plays king h8. Who is the only piece not participating in the game? The bishop. So now, if the center ever opens up, this is... every single piece white has is involved in the attack. Every single one. Except one which is hidden, and it will show its face in a moment. Lanier plays bishop b6. What else can you do? Hans plays rook g2. A preparatory move, defending this pawn against any future troubles, and also maybe you will triple. Maybe he's going to get the Alekhine's gun on the g-file. 19 points of material barreling toward your king. Lanier plays bishop d8. But this is bad. And now we see the best move being played. First of all, I told you that there's all of this, right? The key idea here for white is obviously h4. This is the one thing that we haven't talked about. This is the piece that's saving everything for black. You play h4, h5, black goes down. You simply lose. But bishop d8 is flawed for a second reason, which Hans demonstrates, and this shows real genius. I mean, this shows, like... again, the bishop has been the problem. This bishop has been the problem, right? It can't get into the game. So when the black bishop leaves the center, before you go on this attack, you play c5. You know what the idea of c5 is? That the bishop now comes alive in the future. And this bishop does not. That bishop is now walled in by its own pawns. Hans is ready to just give up a full pawn, because not only will his bishop come alive, the pawns are weak and the d-file might be useful. This is a timely sacrifice, destabilizing black's. I mean, c5 is unbelievable. He played c5 in a minute. He spent 1 minute on this move. And taking it for black is bad. Lanier plays here, because what else can you do? h4. Now the best move for black is c4. Trying to reclose the position. Nobody plays that, right? He does! He gives the pawn back. Both of these guys are like on a ridiculous level. The point is, if the white queen leaves, there's queen f3. But more than anything, it's the fact that you close the position up. But now Hans has arrived. Hans has arrived. And it's over now. It's over now. You go back to e7. Hans takes on g7. In many cases, you can give up a queen and you can get 2 rooks, but not in this case. White takes on e5. White takes on c4. White's pieces never stop, never settle. I feel like that's the ad for some company. Rook g8 is played instead. And again, just like earlier in the game, when Hans launched his attack, and then in this position, he backed out. Yeah, in this position, he crashes through on g7. And you think here we got rook takes h7, which is not even a bad move. King h7, knight g5, attacking ideas. No, Hans just plays rook g3. And he kind of says, what are you going to do about it? Because now what I want is I want to get my knight on g5. I want to trade. I want to get my bishop in. I want to ruin your life. I want to take on h7. Black doesn't have anything. Lanier plays b5, looking to create some sort of counterplay on the queen side. Hans arrives, knight to g5, and it's really, really bad. The other idea of knight to g5 is rook f3, and you just get absolutely butchered here. I mean, this is a masterclass in attacking chess, combining forward moves with backwards moves. I mean, it's like a boxer, just in and out. 1, 2, change angle, hit a hook from the top. I mean, it's the in and out is spectacular. The chess equivalent of footwork here in this game, sensational. Knight g5, Lanier takes, Hans takes with the bishop, and he made so many moves this game where he just inched forward menacingly. Queen f3, the threat is bishop f6, simply ending the game. Or bishop e7 maybe, but probably bishop f6. Black goes knight c8, looking to trade the bishop. I got news for you. That doesn't stop bishop f6. If anything, it made it even more powerful because the knight now no longer protects the rook. Lanier tries to go here. Hans ends the game in style. Listen, Hans can go queen g3 here, threaten rook g7. Hans ends the game in style. Hans, deep down, despite some of our differences, our crazy interview, Hans is a Gotham fan. Always has been. Don't let him fool you. Because in this position, Hans Niemann sacrificed the rook! And game over. Rook e8, deflecting the queen away from the defense of the bishop. And it's not even that you would take the bishop. There is this moment in chess sometimes with the queen, a king, and a piece. You can force the king into a check. It's very instructive. Queen f6, of course, is winning. But you play queen f5 first. And the point is the king is forced to a dark square, at which point you take on f6 with a check, and then it's mate on the next move. Very instructive for the newbies watching this. You don't just go here. If you do, black will go here, and you will not mate him, and you will probably still win, but you may lose. Hans Niemann played a breathtaking game of chess. When I saw this, I couldn't believe it. In fact, I remember I was sitting at my computer getting some work done, and I saw g4, g5, and I went, I think this is a very good way to play against Lanier. I think attacking Lanier, making it a dogfight, is one of the only ways to beat him. Lanier hadn't lost a game in the US Championship in like 35 games. In the US Championship specifically, he's unbeatable. He's unbreakable. He just doesn't lose. And I was like, if Hans wants to win, he's got to make this game, he's got to make it a nasty, like a bar fight. I mean, while juggling those flaming grapefruits. Bishop g5, king h2, and I mean just the poise, patience that he used to bring all his pieces to the party, open up this side of the board, and I mean, instructive is an understatement. Like, this was a fantastic game. It was a fantastic game. Fantastic game. And I wanted to share it with all of you. I hope you enjoyed. The US Championship continues. Hans Niemann is 2.5 out of 4 at the time of recording this video. He's not in a contention for first place, but that's only because Fabiano Caruana keeps winning all his games. But I will be bringing you more games from this event. Carissa Yip on the women's side is playing fantastic chess, so I will cover as many games as I can. And tickets in the description and I'll also pin a comment for Stockholm. Hopefully it was how I broke it down made sense. And the link for the chessboard is live, but you can't buy anything until it's in stock. Get out of here.